Do I get points for him eating bird shit?
Wait, what? Yo, and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji, with me is Russ. How you doing, boy?
Welcome. It's good to have football back. Football is back-ish with the Euros and stuff, but club football is where it's at with, if I don't have any international allegiances, I can finally, watch Liverpool win again. So, I miss that.
And, both our teams got, 3-0 wins, right? Perfect results for us.
Yeah.
Yo, there were so many golazos this weekend, though.
None of them were draws, right? There was not a singular draw in this game week.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think 3 of the away teams won, and then everyone else, just normalized to the home fixture winning, right?
2 of the promoted teams won. Unlucky Norwich went up against Liverpool. Lucky Brentford went up against Arsenal,
Man, Brentford totally deserved that win, though. If you actually watch that game, and the crowd got behind them, and, man, Arsenal just didn't look like they had a plan. They were just we're here to play football.
Did you see the one guy that was, tearing up? He had literal tears because
dude.
They were winning.
Yeah,
the old dude. Oh my god.
Dude, I found
so
that
great.
and retweeted it from our account, right away. It was such good feels.
Yeah. So great.
Before we get started, Russ, do you want to remind listeners how they can engage with us and share our beautiful podcast?
Yeah, so you can message us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handles at BanterB. You can catch us on Discord on the Draft PL channel. Banter Boys, #6585 on Reddit, u/banter_boys. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, and much more, all under the name of Banter Boys.
I love that my voice is super sexy because of the new tech as well. I'm really proud of myself.
You're enjoying it. You probably record yourself, and then be like, oh, this is so great,
Maybe.
Let's
try to keep this PG and football related.
Yeah. Not too much specifics.
So just a quick layout of how we're gonna do this pod. In the first half, we're gonna start things off with our data dump. Just talk about some specific metrics that we think will help you keep track of valuable players in the Fantrax Toga Tracks format of the game. Then we're just gonna kind of quickly discuss how our game week 1 went in terms of what pickups we made or trades and shit we made. We have Twitter questions, so we're definitely gonna run through those as well to wrap up the first half. We'll take our halftime pint, and in the second half, we'll run through injury updates from the premierinjuries.com that is built and ran by Mr. Ben Dinnery himself, the injury guru. And we'll end things off with FA and Waiver Picks that we think you should aim for your game week 2. Ross, shall we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ay. Fantasy with the Banta Boys.
All right, so for the data dump, looking at key passes, the players that led key passes for Game Week 1, Kieran Tierney with 6 key passes, Paul Pogba with 5 key passes, which is pretty crazy because he got 4 assists, eh?
Yeah, exactly. That's 80%.
That is definitely not normal, guys. Please do not expect that from Paul Pogba every game week. Unless you're a United fan, then I feel he would have unexpected.
We'll talk about it in a bit. We'll talk about it in a bit with the XG and the expected goals, right?
Yeah. And rounding off the and we're not gonna go through everyone that got key passes, so the players that ended up with 4 key passes, Fornals from West Ham, Matt Ritchie and ASM from Newcastle, Mo Salah, of course, who ended up with 2 assists, right? And Ismail Assar, who also got 1 assist. When we're looking at shots and how many of those were on target, Adama Traore and Vardy both had 6 shots each. Adama only had 1 on target. Vardy had 3 on target. Honestly, Adama should have probably scored against Leicester. I find Leicester was really lucky to get the clean sheet.
At least 2 goals.
Yeah.
Like 2 of them were just clear on net. Like I've said this and you said this a billion times too. Once Adama Traore starts scoring, he's going to be the most valuable fantasy asset. Without doing anything, he had 18 points. Imagine if 2 of those shots actually went in though. So.
Yeah, well, you see, normal people had 5 successful dribbles this game week. Adama decided to have 10. So that's where you probably got most of your points from him.
Exactly.
The guy just dribbles everybody, yo. It's just beautiful to watch. So moving on with the shots on target. DCL, Dennis, Salah, and Son all had 5 shots as well. DCL had 2 on target, Dennis had 3 on target, Salah had 2 on target, and Son had 1 on target. And then finally, we look at accurate crosses into the box. Kieran Tierney with 5 of them. Man, he was killing me at the start of game week 1. I was when my opponent had him, Tierney ended up on 16 points after conceding 2 goals.
Yeah,
something mental,
points.
Man. And obviously, T-Bebe with those accurate crosses into the box, 3 of them. And tying with T-Bebe is Marcel from Wolves, which kind of surprised me. But Ross, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I have both Tierney and TAA in one league, so my defenders are on fire. Trent ended up with 18, 20 points at the end of the game week, right? So Marcel one was, I think, because now he actually has a striker to aim for, it's different, right? Like, you've got an actual number 9, not someone that's up and coming. No offense to Fabio Silva or Pedro Neto or Daniel Podence, but you're not Jimenez in the sense of an aerial threat. You're the opposite of an aerial threat, in my opinion. No offense.
I mean, just to speak to Jimenez's value, I think he got 3 key passes in that game as well, right? So he's also the striker that's gonna bring everyone else into play as well, right? So, man, again, I'm just so happy to, it's a miracle just seeing Jimmy play football again. Man, I hope he has a good return this season. Okay, Ross, you found some interesting key stats from game week 1 and some interesting expected threat, this new metric I want to say that The Athletic was discussing. So why don't you run through it for us?
So the first one is we got it from @StatsmanFPL. We'll give you a shout out on Twitter too. So first one is kind of pretty straightforward. Brentford had a 35 possession in their 2-0 victory. That kind of makes sense. Arsenal are a team that like to have a ball, but at the moment, I guess they don't know what to do with the ball. Even in the second half, that they did kind of increase their metric on shots and stuff. But at the same time, this is not expected. This is, I think, a really important one, and this is what I was talking about. Man United, even though they scored 5 goals, had an XG of 1.64. So that's a differentiation of about 3.5 goals, or 3 goals in total. I think the way they kind of measured it is what a few Bruno's assists and a few Bruno's goals and Greenwood's goals were such, just call them really good finishes because they had a really low XG if you kind of tally it up on where they kind of stand. So because of that, they scored 5 goals but only had a 1.64 XG. So when you said that don't expect 4 assists from Pogba every game, this is what we mean, is that this is just one of those games where everyone was on fire. It's the first game back, they just want to kind of put a show in for their fans.
I will say one thing about Greenwood. I feel like he will always blow his XG metrics out of the water just because of how good of a natural finisher he is. I don't think it matters where he is, sort of thing, right?
I think that's what he's kind of said. He goes he just practices, puts himself in unique positions which other finishers don't do.
Yeah.
Again, same idea. Paul Pogba created 9 chances. Same sort of stuff, right? United fans will kind of be we'll look at Paul Pogba, but I don't know, maybe it's an aberration. We'll kind of see in the next few games if Paul Pogba kind of keeps up with these performances, especially considering they have another center back, and if he kind of also comes into the mix as well in terms of starting regularly with Varane.
And I'm wondering whether maybe Ole might push Pogba a bit deeper against easier teams, right? Maybe he started McTominay and Fred because it's Leeds, right? And they have so many different runners, etc. Yeah, so I feel like maybe Paul's value could kind of fluctuate depending on what Ole does with him.
Yeah. Next stat, Mo Salah had 5 shots and 5 chances created, and 3 of them were big chances created. With the way that kind of XG or XA kind of lit up, that really kind of like builds up your XA. I think there's one thing to this though, is that Mo Salah is in like talks of like contract renewal, and he's kind of showing his worth. Not saying that he wouldn't do it if he wasn't up for contract renewal. We saw it last year, is that he was Liverpool's main attacking threat. But like, this is also kind of be like, look at what I can do. Again, they were up against Norwich, and first day is kind of what Salah's all about. First game week, man scored 5 goals in 5 consecutive first game weeks. So
yeah, that's
like,
very impressive.
He always shows up on the first day.
Mo looks like he's on absolute fire. Like, he's had a proper rest, right? For this preseason as well. So he looks super fit. Yeah, man. Honestly, I would be jealous of anyone that owns Mo Salah this season.
Chelsea had an XGA of only 0.32. Sanjay, do you want to break this down a bit?
So, I mean, that's like goals conceded, right? Basically, it was impossible to score against us. We just have a really good defense, and it's just picking up where we left off last season, I think. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we kept a clean sheet in a few of the difficult games coming up, right? I still want to give credit to Arsenal and say it's going to be a tough fixture because, I mean, they still beat us last season, right? I think ESR had scored against us or some shit. So, yeah, I think if you can get your hands on Chelsea defense, do it. Like, I streamed Christensen, for example, this game week, and I got clean sheet points out of it, right?
Considering that you were going against Crystal Palace, and I think almost everyone has Crystal Palace in their bottom 3, apart from, I'm pretty sure a lot of actually, you know what? It said that 92% of Crystal Palace fans, based off some like survey The Athletic did, were happy with their team. So I don't know. Maybe they won't be so happy after this season. I would love to be proven wrong. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't love to be proven wrong. I would want to see Crystal Palace go down.
Man, but honestly, I feel like the next fixture against Brentford is like a must-win game for them because their fixtures don't get easier after that either.
No, I don't think so.
It'll be interesting to see what Vieira does.
Brighton conceded 3 big chances against Burnley. Every year we talk about the XGA of Burnley and how or Brighton and how it's so low, but they conceded 3 big chances out of Burnley. So again, with the same thing, don't be fooled by Brighton defense and don't be like, oh, let's go pick up a Brighton defender because their XGA is usually so low. They will concede goals.
Yeah, but we're talking about Burnley creating these big chances, eh?
Yeah,
Burnley
exactly.
Created 3 big chances, guys.
So
that's crazy.
West Ham had the highest XG of the week with 3.01 and created 6 big chances. Antonio had a beast of a game with a 1.97 XG plus XA. So it'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, just watching him play was amazing, man. The guy looks fit. He looks like he doesn't want to stop running. My only concern now, though, is I know the stat isn't about Benrahma, and we know Benrahma had a great game. There's talks now about Lingard potentially moving to West Ham in the end. It might be closer to the transfer deadline. Like, I saw some interesting questions about where would you now draft Benrahma if you were doing a late draft into the season. You know, with the understanding that Lingard's coming in, does that affect your place of where you're going to draft Benrahma?
To a certain extent, but I still feel like maybe Jared Bowen, Pablo Fornell's position might be more open for like consideration with Lingard coming in. Not necessarily Benrahma. Like Lingard likes to play somewhere central. Benrahma is usually somewhere on the wing. So maybe his position might be safe. Like, he was a big money signing last season.
Yeah.
Benrahma, like, he was a big money signing. So it'll be kind of one of those things. Then that...
After chatting to some West Ham fans and stuff, I get the idea that it could be Bowen that ends up losing out because Fornals seems to have that drive and hustle in midfield that helps them with the defensive work or whatnot. And even though like Fornals that won't score like maybe 2 goals or get 2 assists every game, he will chip in every now and then with an attacking return, right?
So the next thing is that Sanjay was kind of talking about was the expected threat, and this was like a tweet that was from The Athletic, and they said Kieran Tierney, Sambi Lokonga, Granit Xhaka, and ESR were in the top 20 in the Premier League opening weekend for expected threat. Nicolas Pepe and Gabriel Martinelli struggled with an expected threat of 0.01 and 0.03 respectively against Brentford. So there's such a big polarity in the sense of like you've got such players who are driving the play forward, whereas you've got your other 2 main center points who are basically pedestrian in that attacking threat, right? Shout out to Granit Xhaka because he just got a contract renewal, I guess, based off that one game.
What?
Some Arsenal fans were not happy from what I was reading. They're just like, why are we focusing on this and not going for like, but I feel like Arsenal fans are never going to be happy with anything that Arsenal do. So, especially with now like, Lacazette and Aubameyang also kind of, unwell, quote unquote. So
yeah, that's an interesting one because I'm seeing talks now about Auba getting linked to Barca or being offered to Barca as part of some deal or some shit. I mean, what? Like again,
I don't think it's true.
Like one of my best friends is Arsenal fan, right? So we pretty much talk like Arsenal every other day or something like that. And he keeps telling me, you know what, 2024. That's when you should be focusing on Arsenal. Don't study us right now. We're still a work in progress. And he was very upset about that Joe Willock move, man. Losing Joe Willock, even I was shocked just because of the form that he had towards the end of last season. Like I really thought he was gonna be able to seal a spot in that squad.
Where does he fit in though?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I would hate for Joe Willock to stay on the contingency that like we might start you, we might not start you. Whereas at Newcastle, he's guaranteed a starting spot. He's already been part of the team for half a season. Why not? Like, that would be a better move for him as a player rather than, not knowing if you're going to start or not. Especially at this point in his career, right? Like, he's trying to get more minutes. He's trying to like build his kind of like, professional career, and fighting for a spot might not be the best rather than, actually playing and actually getting game time. So,
I mean, you could just bench all the old men and play all the young boys. That seems to be working for Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Why exactly so.
All right. I think now we can move on to like a little bit of a review of how our game week 1 went. Ross, how were your results in your leagues? Did you end up winning?
I won one game. It was a rematch. I didn't realize because Manos changed his team. So I didn't realize I was actually like rematch was against Manos, and he got the better of me. He took his revenge and beat me in our first game. It was basically like, I had Cleek and Calvin Phillips didn't start. Mason Greenwood was on my bench. John Stones didn't start, but Nathan Ake did, who Manos had. And I was just like, and to be honest, like the United, like right before the United Leeds game, like I slept at like 4:30 or like 4. So, and I had to go play football in the morning. So I was just like, I'm not going to lose sleep over, United versus Leeds, even if I end up losing.
What a rock star life you're living, bro.
I ended up losing, so it's fine. For the sake of football, yeah, it's fine.
I mean, did you at least score in the real life game that you went to play?
No, I didn't. I actually got nutmegged really, like, it was bad, bro. Like, it was really bad.
Is the lack of sleep, though? It's a lack of sleep.
Yeah, it's a lack of sleep. Like, even the guy who goes like, I had to. I'm like, bro, it's okay. I give my fair share of nutmegs, I will agree to that. But
shout out to Neeraj.
There was just a really bad nutmeg, which I had to own up, man. Like, I had my teammates being like, Ross, are you okay? Is your respect intact? All of these things. I'm just like, all right, relax, buddy. Okay.
Well, I mean, in my league, I got wins in both the DPL Com League. I should probably know the name for this, and the IGL League. And it's funny, there was someone that wrote basically like an analysis of all the teams in our league. Like he was giving like school grades, and I'm pretty sure I got given a D plus. Like I basically got like my team like roasted completely. So I was like, you know what? It's cool. It's cool.
How do you determine those grades?
I have no idea. Maybe just people just going based on how you're drafting initially, I think. I think that's what it was. They looked at like what the draft board was like and they like just judged you, how you drafted.
It sounds so subjective though.
Yeah. Because we've had this discussion before. Yes, a good draft, bad draft, or whatever can really affect your season, but it's also your ability to kind of bounce back during the season, like doing
100%.
FA pickups and all of that stuff, right? You can easily change your fortune by doing like half of your team just doing FA pickups, right?
I would say more than half your team. Like I'm thinking about the last time I like the one I won in the Banter Boys League. I had maybe 3-4 players that I had initially drafted. Most of it was just kind of free agent pickups, right? I 100% agree that, like, if you can get the players, you can, like, don't be loyal to your players. So,
yeah. So I just want to respectfully tell whoever graded that you could suck it. But I mean, I had to do a couple of like I mentioned, some FA pickups, right? Because I had people that were not there as well, right? The likes of Veltman was missing, I think, because of COVID, close contact. Same thing with Semedo. I think he had a close COVID contact, or he himself tested positive for COVID. So guys, you want to be aware of this, right? COVID is still around. There's a chance that you're going to end up not having your starting players, and don't panic just because your player did not start game week 1. Don't go and drop all the assets that you put in hard work and effort to study who to draft and when to draft them, etc. Give it time, have patience. This season has just started, right?
35 games, right? So
there you go, right? And that's if you play with playoffs, right? Which we would assume, because that's the best way to play draft. You need playoffs, right? But I mean, a couple of the FA pickups that I went with was like Charlie Taylor, Benj Mendy, Christensen, and Matt Ritchie, and all of them thumped, right? Even the players that we suggested pre-season, like the likes of Jacob Murphy, the likes of Ducore, were possible FAs that you could have picked up, and they both ended up getting B scores as well, right? They both scored.
Yeah. So, you know what? Just things to kind of look out for. Like I said, like I have James Rodriguez, and Sanji doesn't like that pick. But you know what? For the sake of him staying, and the only reason he's out because of COVID, but for the sake of him staying, I'm glad I drafted him because the upside, I feel, is a lot more. Again, like my midfield is a bit lacking because if James stays or not, but then drop and then pick up player. At least then you'll have a spot to kind of pick up and play around with. So,
do you think anyone would take James from you at this point, though?
Let him come back first, and then let's see what happens. I don't think anyone's just gonna be like, Ross, give me James. Yeah. So I can't even offer him up to you right now because we don't play in any leagues. So.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Now I think what we can do is run through the Twitter questions, Ross. If you want to read through them.
Right. So let me just pull up Twitter to do.
Pull it up.
First question we have is from Daniel. He has 3 questions in this tweet actually. So. Or 3 parts. What do you guys think about Milo Rashica looked lively in the Liverpool game?
Yeah, he kind of looked, he tried things. Like, he looks like he's a bit of a dribbler. He looks like he could probably create some chances here and there, because it felt like every time Norwich was breaking out from defending or whatever, Rashica seemed to be that outlet quite a few times, right? But I do want to give a shout out, and I know we're going to talk about like FA picks and stuff after, but Kieran Dowell, I know he didn't start the game, but the kid got 4 points in 3 minutes, which included 2 key passes. Okay.
Yeah.
So just saying, this kid, if he gets a run of games, he could end up being a serious monster, like ghost points was.
Yeah. Yeah. From what I saw about Milo Rashica, he seemed like a very, you're right, involved player. I got the vibes of like, the season before that they were in the Premier League, right?
Yeah.
Like, not super consistent, but like always wanted to try and always want to move the play forward. So, I guess one to kind of keep out for. Second question, Fab on Varane. How much is too much for an 11 FPG player?
I mean, you're assuming that Varane scores that many. I feel like in the community, there's more of a discussion of him being closer to like a 7 to 8 point sort of player. Ross, what's your take on this?
Well, he went for 40 in our league, and I think that's maybe $5-10. Like, you're right. Like, I'm still wanting to do, like, I think he'll be solid, and he'll be the biggest benefit right now of him is that he will immediately improve United's defense, and he will immediately improve the chances of getting a clean sheet, right? I think United have a easier run of games at the moment too. So not something like, too difficult. And like, if they get in the groove of things and Varane starts immediately, especially if they're scoring like 5 goals against your opponent, right? So, that's something to kind of immediately shut down your opponent from scoring as well. So that's my only thing. I think it's a wait and see because everyone's kind of been like he's the cat or he's like a super passive defensive player and doesn't really press too much. But he's also the faster of the center. He would be the faster of the center back pairing. And I would expect him to have some sort of like, aerial threat as well. So it's just kind of wait and see and how he kind of pairs up with Harry Maguire.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point as well. And shout out to Robbie P. Going back to the analysis that he did of the centre backs. The first rebuttal you brought up was, well, this doesn't really talk about, Varane and his international performance, right? His international metrics. So maybe we shouldn't look past that as well. So yeah, definitely it's going to be very interesting to see how Varane kind of unfolds as a Fantrax asset. So I want to say maybe like 15 to 25 fab is what you'd probably want to drop him in then, Ross?
Mm-hmm. But I'm assuming he's probably gone in many of the leagues already, though, right? Actually, maybe not. He's only
he's
4%
like 6%.
owned.
Yeah, he's like 6%.
Yeah, he's like 6%. Yeah. So, like, yeah. But again, because he's a big name, I think it will also get out the big money, right? People will kind of, star, what would you call it? Like, name attraction, right? Like, Varane, Champions League winner, Real Madrid World Cup winning defender, right? So,
yeah, I can't see him not start either. So,
yeah, exactly. Last one is Sanji. It's for you, Sanji. Hope you're doing well, buddy. We miss you in the OG League. We definitely do, Sanji.
Yeah, man. It feels weird not being able to like chat to you boys like on an everyday regarding football. I'm curious who's going to make that consistent run to the finals now. Ross, my money's on you, buddy. Just given your success in the Banter Boys League last season, yeah, I definitely think you're gonna kill it this season.
Yeah, but ending up losing to, Niraj or Daniel in the finals, so...
Yeah, anyways, I miss you boys. But yeah, hope to see y'all back maybe in upcoming seasons.
Next question we have is from Andreas. Oh, by the way, thank you, Daniel, for the questions.
Thank you.
Next question we have from Andreas. When are we doing a crossover with me and OG Draft? That's exactly how he wrote it.
I know. I love how he types, man. Shout out to Andres and his new pod, by the way. It's OG and Freshcos, I think. It's what it's called. Have you given it a listen?
Draft OG, right? Not yet. I have to listen to it because apparently there's this really juicy story about Cucho in it, and he told me you have to listen to it in the podcast. I'm like, that's exactly where I'm going, bro.
And not even that, he actually tells you the story behind his Twitter handle name, and it's hilarious. I'm not gonna ruin it.
All right, I'm looking forward to listening to it, Andrea. So when is this collaboration happening, Sanji?
You know what? I think let's give it a few more weeks, because I have some big news as well. I mean, I guess should we just drop it on the pod like that? Like I'm potentially
Up to
moving
you,
as
bro.
well.
It's your news, man.
So I'm potentially, well, I shouldn't say potentially. I will be moving to London, UK over the next few weeks. So yeah, I got into school and yeah, excited for what that's going to bring as well. Yeah, I think once I get settled down and once we kind of figure out like the time zone scheduling as well, because I think Andres records in the US and his partner records in Australia. So like Andres, I think, was like up at like 6 a.m. recording, right?
Wow.
And yeah, Draft OG was at like
Commitment.
recording at 9 p.m. So we got to figure out all our time zones and stuff as well, right?
100%.
Yeah. So once I get settled, I'll hit you up, Andres. Don't you worry, baby.
Next question. Thanks, Andres, for asking, and congratulations on starting the podcast. Looking forward to a lot more collaborations in the future. Next question we have from Robbie P. Thoughts on the promoted teams and who looks best value for Fantrax? Clearly a tiny sample size, but are there any players you're worried or excited about going forward? Example, I guess it's two different questions. And he says, example, Doherty due to playing time.
Yeah, so the first part is about the promoted teams, right? And who looks the best value. Right off the bat for Brentford, I want to say Pinnock.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kanyos, because he takes all those set pieces, those corners
Liverpool
and stuff.
legend.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I didn't even know this kid played for Liverpool. Like,
Yeah,
do you have any
way while ago.
do you have any history or any background about it?
Not really, though. I just knew that he was a kid in our academy, and like people were kind of disappointed that he left, but it was just kind of like, best for both parties sort of situation. So,
yeah, Liverpool legend, but yeah, from them, I feel like those are like the only couple of players you could probably get at this point. Mbuemo looks like he could be a proper goal threat, right? And unless you drafted Tony, I don't think you're gonna be able to get him in any of your leagues.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at who do we look at? Watford for sure next. Yo, Ismail Assar looks like a beast, bro.
Yeah, bro. It's all that Mane training, man. That's all it is.
Yo, he looks super buff too now, man. Like he was holding target off with ease.
I think playing one season in the champ, like he had glimpses of it, especially that one game where he essentially single-handedly beat Liverpool. But I think that one season in the championship was done great for him, like build confidence, right? Like, he was a proper goal scoring and assist machine in the championship. Now coming back to it with already some Premier League experience is going to do a lot good for him.
Yeah, and Dennis, the menace, new kid on the block. He also seems a proper talent for Watford. He got one of the highest scores as a forward option in Fantrax this game week, right? Nearly above 30 points, I want to say.
33-ish, yeah?
Yeah. Do you think like his spot is safe because Watford's got like 1 million strikers on their roster, right?
I know, exactly. That's kind of the only thing, but I think this time they'll probably want to stick to the single, if things are going well, right? Why change it up?
Yeah.
Right? So probably that's the only thing that might kind of secure a spot at the moment.
I mean, we have to shout out Cucho Hernandez, right? Andres' boy. He's been high on him all preseason. I think Andres even ended up dropping the kid. I know he kind of contradicted himself doing that, but yeah, I mean, Cucho scored a screamer, and I don't know where I saw or heard this, but I feel like he's like he wants to replicate what Sergio Aguero did in the EPL, right? So a man's got big dreams, right? That he's trying to achieve.
Man.
Exactly. That's mad goals, bruh.
Yeah.
But other than that, Ken Summer was a bit of a flop only for the first game week. But I mean, he was taking some of the set pieces and stuff. They nearly scored from one of his set pieces, in fact. So maybe Ken Summer have a little more patience with him because he's kind of sharing the set pieces with Cleverly as well. I think Cleverly ended up getting an assist from one of those as well. So other than Watford, I'm still not convinced by them defensively yet. Like the likes of Femini and Messina, I think you could probably stream them for easy fixtures. And lastly, with Norwich, I feel like the only guy that I would really want is Cantwell, or this other kid that showed up with a lot of ghost points, Lees Malou.
Yeah, I think, like, again, they went up against Liverpool though, so, like, and Liverpool, like, love playing at Carrow Road, like, almost like a second home. So I wouldn't kind of like, and they almost scored too. So
Yeah.
let's give them some time, right?
Yep.
We'll talk about our bottom 3 picks in like a couple of weeks and who we kind of see, or who we kind of expect to kind of see relegated. So let's see.
Yeah. And Robbie's the second part of his question is with regards to being worried or excited about players going forward. Example, Doherty. So I guess if I want to name a couple other players, Ait Nouri as well. He didn't feature, right? And he was a big punt that people wanted to take during preseason, etc. Who else would you be worried about?
What are you thinking about the fullback situation at Leicester?
Oh, yeah, because Luke Thomas played, and he smashed it, 15.5 points or something like that.
Yeah, but both Bertrand and Castagna weren't available.
Yeah, I honestly think that Castagna and Ricky P are your starting fullbacks or wingbacks or whatever, right? But I mean, they also have Europa to deal with, so do they kind of hold off and play their stronger guys in Europa and then play the weaker guys in EPL? Like maybe Luke Thomas is actually going to be a proper asset this season now.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it will only find out, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like, players like Doherty and stuff like that, I don't think you should be too worried about, like, dropping and then losing out on them. Because, again, I feel like there's always defenders that you can stream from these teams, right? I won't be surprised if, Sanchez, Dyer, and Romero
Skip.
is free in your league, or Skip or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I know Skip is a midfielder, but like in terms of like getting clean sheets randomly, like you can always pick pick them up, right? So again, too early in the season to be like, oh no, drop him, oh no, buy him. So yeah, long way to go, man.
Nice. Thank you, Robbie P, for asking your question. Next we have Jagos Benito. That's Ryan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan asked his question on the WhatsApp chat, and Sanjay was like, no. Go put it on Twitter.
I did do that.
I know one game week is too short of a sample size, but do you think Dennis, Pinnock, and Duffy are the real deal? Same sort of idea, Sanjay. What do you think?
If I had to rate those picks in order, I would probably start with Pinnock. I feel like he's the most nailed option out of all of those guys, right? And earlier before the pod, I dropped the PFA Championship Team of the Year from last season, and Pinnock was in there, right? And Ryan also commented that he was really upset he didn't draft Pinnock because during our preseason data, I think Pinnock won like over 200 aerials or some shit like that. So, I mean, he's going to be that rock at the back and defending for them. If I had to pick next, I would probably go Dennis, just because I feel like Duffy is just a placeholder until Byrne comes back. Maybe they sign another centre back, right? I don't know if Duffy's gonna last the entire season. And yeah, the thing with Dennis is like Watford and their million strikers. Like, will Cucho start the next game? That sort of thing, right?
Thanks, Ryan, for asking the question. Missing you. I think it was you and Sanji up for if we did it like a pub quiz today. So I think Sanji got lucky.
You mean I got the win by default? Woo!
Thanks. So last question we have from the FPL boss. Which defensive streamers are you looking at for game week 2?
Yes, so I pulled up the clean sheet odds, and you can get this from either the Draft Town website or you can go follow another account on Twitter. His name is Abdul at FPL_Salah. And I mean, Russ, like, of course you will endorse anything with Salah in it, right?
100%.
But what Abdul does is that he posts the clean sheet odds for every game week, right? And he then kind of goes back to see, which teams actually kept the clean sheet and how it kind of matched up with their percentages, odds or whatever. So, I mean, I would suggest maybe do that for all the future game weeks coming up, right? And we have it pulled up over here for game week 2. Liverpool seems to be the one team in the lead for who is most likely to keep a clean sheet, right? We're at 62%. Man City in second with 60%. Brighton in third with 48%. And then Chelsea in fourth with 42%. So now you can go look up the full list yourself. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. But I think the initial thing I'm getting is like, okay, I feel like Matip is under 50%. I can go pick him up as an FA, right? Same thing with Man City. We know Pep Roulette is a big fucking thing. Just go pick up the Man City defender that you can get at the time as quickly as possible, right? I'm not sure if I'm high on getting a Brighton defense just because like the stats that Ross went through earlier and Ismail Sarr could smash whatever expected goals conceded Brighton seems to be putting up or whatever. So I would definitely look at trying to stream a Liverpool or Man City defender.
Yeah, no, Matip would be my number one choice too. People criminally underrate the influence of Matip that he has on our team. A stat that I saw was in the last 39 games when Matip started, Liverpool have only lost one game.
Now look at that. That's why Virgil has him on a t-shirt. We need to get that t-shirt.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah. All right.
But on that point though, like Virgil and Matip are a very solid. I think they have one of the highest win percentage duos from Liverpool. Like when they started, Liverpool like have like an incredibly high. Like they've only lost like 1 or 2 games or something as well. So like again, another thing to kind of also look at is if Virgil and Matip start together, that's a solid center back pairing.
Yeah. Are there any defensive streamer options that you want to shout out though before we?
I mean, I was just gonna be like let's just kind of wait for our picks, and I did mention a few, so let's just kind of wait for that.
All right, and I think that's the end of the questions then. And it's a perfect time for our halftime pint. Mm-hmm. So Ross, I'm gonna get a drink. You get a sparkling water, and we'll be right back.
Yep.
And we are back. Okay, so I think now what we'll do is run through the injuries table from the premierinjuries.com website. And again, I'm not going to go through everything, just ones that kind of jump out. So starting with Arsenal, Gabriel is still being assessed for a knock. And I don't think he's going to be back in training until early September. So that's a little concerning because I don't think Arsenal fans are quite convinced by Ben White and the Mari combination. They really want to see Gabriel, I think, play next to Ben White. And I mean, I'm also seeing discussions, maybe Arteta should play that back three, play the system that suits the players that he bought sort of thing. The likes of Thomas Partey is out as well. He might be back in training in the next few weeks as well. And Arsenal fans are screaming for him to be partnering Sambi, instead of Xhaka, the guy that they gave the contract extension or whatever. I'm not sure what's up with Orba and Laka. They don't have any return dates, just currently being assessed. Me and old boy.
They're unwell. Like, it was a very like shady last minute, like both these players are unwell and one of the players has already been linked away from the club. So it just kind of feels a bit weird that way. Like, Fabrizio did kind of like knock down any rumors on like, no, Barcelona is not interested in Aubameyang and like they're not even looking at him, but things change instantly, right? So let's see what happens.
Yeah. Looking at Aston Villa now. Douglas was on international duty, right? So I don't think he's going to be back immediately. I think they're going to kind of ease him into it. Ollie Watkins, though, it's quite a concern. I think Ollie still has a bit of pain in his knee, so they're not sure about his training situation. And that's rough because a lot of managers would have drafted him in sometimes the first or second round this season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely a watch and see. What would you do as an Ollie Watkins owner, Ross?
Trying to advocate for an injury spot.
Yeah.
IR spot.
Yeah. I mean,
If you don't already have one.
yeah, and I feel like you should have tried to push for one because COVID is still around, right? I mean, obviously you don't want to abuse it and just put any willy-nilly person and just try to collect them all like a Pokemon trainer on your roster. But yeah. It would have been nice.
One spot is good enough, though.
Yeah, I think one dedicated to COVID would be nice this season, you know? Moving on to Brentford, their centre-back, Ayer, picked up a little bit of a knock in that game during Arsenal. So he's currently being assessed. And this midfielder, Josh Da Silva, I don't think he's going to be back anytime soon. And he was kind of being tipped as like a potential sleeper in this Brentford squad, right? So they're still waiting as well on Matthias Jensen because he didn't really play too much preseason. I think he got a knock in that game versus England in the Euros. So Matthias Jensen is one to keep your eye on, right? He was one of the chief creators for Brentford in their championship season as well. Moving on to Brighton. Danny Welbeck is still out. Tarek Lamptey is still out. Veltman, we know, is isolating because of COVID precautions. Aaron Connolly apparently has personal reasons. And Dan Burn, we know, had that preseason injury to his MCL. So he's still being currently assessed with no return date at the moment. We look at Burnley. I don't think any of those guys are people that you necessarily want to draft in Fantrax. So I think we can move on to Chelsea. Ziyech. So I don't think he needs surgery on his shoulder, which is fantastic news because he was hot all preseason. So he might be back in the next few weeks. So don't drop him. Hold on to Ziyech, right? If you can. Big Rom. There's a chance that he might play at Arsenal, right? He had his first training session today. Oh, by the way, we're recording on Tuesday, August the 17th. We should have started the pod with that. But yeah, I don't think there's any concerns about that. Angola Kante, I know he felt a little bit of a niggle in the warm-up to the Super Cup. You know, the guy still pushed through that game and still played. What a champ, man. But that's kind of why he's being held back, and Kova and Georgie are getting the minutes. And Loftus-Cheek, I don't think he's going to be a Fantrax asset this season unless he moves to another club. He had a COVID positive test, so he had to isolate. Moving on to Crystal Palace, Michael Elise could be back in the next few weeks. Apparently, he's feeling a lot better. I don't think you can expect Eberechi Eze back this season. I still think don't draft him. It's not going to make any sense. The likes of Luka Milivojevic, he's not going to be fit for the game coming up as well. And he's been missing kind of due to personal reasons. So I feel like if you want a Crystal Palace midfielder, maybe keep your eye on Conor Gallagher. He didn't play the game versus Chelsea because of that parent club issue stuff, right? Moving on to Everton, Moise Keane tested positive for COVID, so there's no return date for that. I mean, same thing like you mentioned, James Rodriguez, right? He's also in isolation apparently due to COVID. Though I'm not gonna lie, I kind of don't believe that a little bit.
Really?
A little bit. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's one thing to not be like he's isolating due to COVID or he's tested positive for COVID. So
don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jean-Philippe Gabarman. I know this guy was like having a terrible time with injuries since he came to the EPL. It just sucks to see him with a COVID status now. Like the guy can't get a break, man.
Yeah.
Looking at Leeds United, I think they did definitely have a big loss in their centre-back pairing, like their partnership or whatever. Diego Llorente picked up a knee injury right before the start of the season. You might need to give it a few weeks, but I feel like that also affected them and kind of didn't help, with the conceding of 5 goals to Manchester United. Moving on to Leicester, Johnny Evans, I think, is still working through that plantar fasciitis issue that he had towards the end of last season. The likes of Timothy Castagne, we know he's training with a mask, but I think they're slowly easing him into it because it was a serious injury, man. It looked like there was like a hole in the side of his head during the Euros.
Yeah.
Bertrand apparently tested positive for COVID, so is a wait and see with him. James Maddison took a little whack to the back, but he should be okay, just currently being assessed. James Justin, so he is, building fitness and getting, there's a potential that he's going to come back around October, November. So he was a beast when he was fit, right? So keep an eye on that situation, monitor that. That could be a great pickup later on in the season. And yeah, I mean, Wesley Fofana, bro, I'm so sorry that injury happened to you, man. Don't think you can really look at him as an asset either. For Liverpool, Thiago apparently lacking match fitness. Do you think Fabinho is probably going to be starting the games coming up then?
I think so. He came on as a sub in the Norwich game, so I think he will eventually start this game. If not this game, definitely next game. So,
and what about Jordan Henderson? Is he back in training?
Same sort of stuff as Thiago. Like, he is definitely back in training, and he is doing full team training. Like, I see pictures of him. They're doing like the rondo exercises and like the finishing exercises. So he's definitely in full team training. I think Klopp said it is that these kids have had like 30 minutes of preseason.
Yeah.
It's not enough to kind of just go out and play competitive football, right?
Yeah, for
so, like, it's just a matter, I think, like I said, like the eventual midfield pairing, it will be Fabinho, Thiago, and Henderson, but it's just a matter of when these guys get fully fit, match fit.
And what's the situation with Curtis Jones, seeing that he had a head face injury or whatever? Some concussion protocols that they might have been running on him?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it was just a bad injury to his, like, someone just ran into him, right? So I think they're just kind of making sure everything's good. Some good news was, like, Robbo.
Yeah, that's the one I want to talk about next, is this man is a machine, already back on the grass running.
Yeah, like, apparently only running in a straight line is what you told me, but you know what? Like, he wasn't even expected to be back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, the fact he's already running is a really, really good sign.
Yeah, man, what a champ. You want players like that playing for your club, yo. Moving on to Manchester City. Phil Foden, we know, is going to be out for a while, which was really strange. Why? And I know his, like, ghost points and it's just his points in general, how, like, the rate at which he puts them up is, like, a monster, like. But given his injury, I was still surprised to see managers drafting him in, like, as early as the second round or the third round, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Especially with Man City signing all these talents and, potentially still going to sign Harry Kane. Like, where's everybody going to play, yo?
That's always going to be a concern for Man City. Is that where all these guys going to play? So
Pep and his damn roulette, yo. Ilkay Gundogan picked up a shoulder injury in that game versus Spurs. So I think it's a watch and see with him. I don't expect him to play for the next couple of game weeks. I could be wrong, but, let's see. For Manchester United, I believe Varane has been involved in trading now. There's a chance that we might see him in the upcoming game weeks, right? Edison Cavani is finishing off some isolation as well. Because he came from possibly, I think, one of the red list countries or whatnot. We know Marcus Rashford had a successful surgery. So what do you think? Maybe we'll see him by like October, November or whatnot?
Late October, November is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you're really focused on the likes of Alex Telles or Phil Jones or Eric Bailly as assets. But Dean Henderson, we know he's recovering from a serious bout of COVID as well. So I think DDG might hold that shirt for a little while. And we know that Jesse had COVID and he was self-isolating. But I feel like Jesse's probably going to move to West Ham, right? So maybe give it some time until he moves to kind of figure out whether or not you want to draft him. For Newcastle United, we know their goalkeepers are both kind of out. This Woodman kid is in net for them. Other than that, I think like most of their starting 11 and even assets that you can pick up as FAs, we'll kind of discuss a bit later in the pod. For Norwich, bro, do you really want to discuss the Norwich assets? Like, I really don't recommend people try and draft Norwich assets, like, Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move on, man. For Southampton, I don't think they've got like anyone that is like a big name on the injury table. Tottenham Hotspur, apparently Harry Kane is like, is he training? Is he not training? I don't know. Like, what's going on there? Is he injured? Is he not injured? Who knows?
Mhm. Mhm.
But Tanguy Ndombele, not injured, but not being considered at the moment. Like, what's up with that?
Let's see what happens. Maybe it's just another move away. Falling out of Nuno probably doesn't see him as like an option for his team at the moment.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So Watford, two of their million forwards, Josh King and João Pedro, I think they're slowly making their way back through fitness. I think Josh King had like a minor groin problem, and João Pedro again is just coming back from like a knee injury. So it's like a watch and see for them. So I think Dennis is probably gonna hold that spot a bit longer, with maybe battle it out with Cucho. For West Ham, Arthur Masuaku still apparently has knee issues, like that fluid in the knee. Man, that's never a good sign.
Oh, that's
right.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so I would just kind of avoid that one altogether. Willy Bolly, hamstring strain. I don't know if you really want to consider him as a defensive asset. We know Johnny Otto had like, double ACL MCL issue. Again, you kind of want to avoid. I'm not sure why people were drafting Neto. I didn't really see any sort of return date for him. I want to say the same for Daniel Podence. Like, if either one of these guys are free, Neto or Podence, do you think you're gonna go pick them up? Maybe waste a spot on your roster?
No, not really. Well, Neto, I saw like late September or like something like that, and I was like, oh, okay, he's coming back a lot, or late August even.
Yeah.
But like I didn't think that was like true, because I thought he had a really bad injury and like needed surgery and everything.
Yeah, same.
So
yeah. It's a weird one. Like,
I don't know.
I
don't know where these people are getting timelines for this for.
I don't know, man. They know something banter boys don't. But you better share it if you do. But yeah, that is the injury updates. I think now, Ross, we can move on to our FA waiver pick suggestions that we think you could make for game week 2 to help you win your matchups.
Yep.
Ross, do you want to get us started? Yep.
Yeah, first game, Liverpool-Burnley. If Matip is 41% owned, we kind of talked about him as like not just as a streaming option, but also one to kind of hold on to if you can still get him. Or if you can just get any Liverpool defender that's starting, this might be one of your only chances. My next is like while they're starting, Naby Keita and Ox are gonna be hopefully more involved. They didn't do that well against Norwich in terms of fantasy points, but they did play a lot more minutes. Like Naby Keita played 85 minutes, and that's a great sign. So I would still recommend them, especially if they're starting and if they push forward a lot, so they will be involved hopefully in some of the goals.
And I know you mentioned in the preseason content that you thought Ox would possibly be battling it out for that false 9 or position. But man, when Bobby came on, I feel like Bobby should be starting every game right now.
Yeah, man. He looks really, really good.
Yeah, he really, really does. So from Burnley, the assets that I'm going to suggest, Charlie Taylor, 10% owned. He put up 5.5 points after conceding 2 goals, right? We know he's got a wicked delivery on him, and Chris Wood is fit and playing, so there's always a chance that Charlie Taylor could get that attacking return. And the other player, I want to say maybe a bit of a watch and see if he starts, because he didn't this game, Josh Brownhill. He scored 5.5 points in 10 minutes, and he's only 9% owned. If the kid starts, he's going to put up ghost points for you, right? He is a workhorse in that midfield for Burnley. I think we can move on to the next game, Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Honestly,
no one really stands out. Most of the options are probably already gone. You have players like Konza who are like 40-ish% or 30-ish% owned, but I don't know if I trust their defense. They've lost John Terry. They lost Jack Grealish. Even though Jack Grealish is not a defender, we kind of talked about in the past on how crucial he is to that defense in terms of carrying the ball forward. Yeah. So it's just to kind of see if like Aston Villa can come back to their old defensive best.
Yeah, that's a great point. Wait, are you not wanting to pick up Ashley Young then? the legend himself.
Do I get points for him eating bird shit?
Wait, what?
Haven't you seen this video? Ashley Young has definitely denied it, and it probably didn't happen, but there's this little video where he's kind of walking, and it's like something's falling from the sky, and it's white, and like it just kind of goes in his mouth. So I don't know what it is. There is a video where he kind of talks about it too. He goes like, no, I definitely have never eaten, it definitely never happened, but like, it looks pretty convincing that it did.
Bro, I gotta see this. I've never seen this before. Okay, alright. Definitely retweeting this after. The assets I'm gonna suggest from Newcastle. Murphy 7% owned and Richie 16% owned. I mean, these were the guys that we suggested in preseason as well, right? If they were going to get a consistent run of games. And Matt Ritchie looked like he nearly scored as well this game week. I don't know how old, like, I feel like Matt Ritchie is super old, but every season goes by, it feels like he's playing like a younger version of himself, like just infinite energy, like. And yeah, Jacob Murphy, he got the goal, like we suggested him as a punt. I think those guys are just gonna do really, really well in their wingback spot, right? And remember, they're both listed as midfielders, so you don't have to worry about Newcastle conceding 4 goals again. Next game, Crystal Palace versus Brentford.
James MacArthur, 2% owned, had 10.5 points.
Yeah, that was really impressive.
Like, you know,
I saw that, yeah.
So, like, and second is, hopefully he starts seeing more game time. I know he didn't fully start, but Joachim Anderson, hopefully, like, you know, once he kind of fits into Patrick Vieira's plans, they did sign him from Fulham. He was pretty good last season, so, like, you know, as Crystal Palace are kind of like, you know, coming together, maybe you can kind of pick up Anderson and see how it's going. I still think Crystal Palace is going to get relegated. So
yeah, I agree. I totally
so kind
agree.
of like, you know, big asterisks on that pick.
Yeah. Okay, for Brentford, Pinnock, 20% owned. He's their main defender, right? And he led the defensive stats when we looked back at their championship season as well. Sergi Canos, Liverpool legend, can't go wrong, 40% owned on corners, on set pieces. He took his goal really, really well against Arsenal, and I think you can expect a few more attacking returns from him. And I don't do this often, but yeah, I'm going to shout a goalkeeper, David Raya, 13% owned. I feel like Brentford are still going to concede chances. They're going to concede shots. So I think he's going to be able to rack up some saves. He looked like in the moments when called upon, he did come out and kind of dominate his box. So he might pick up the odd high claim or the smother. He seems to be a bit fearless. And we've seen him make some really, really good saves in that Arsenal game, right? I want to say notably that Pepe shot, low bottom hand left corner or whatever. Yeah, he made a great save for that. So I think Raya, if you don't want to roster him immediately, he's definitely a streamer option that you can look at, right?
Brentford also just signed a goalkeeper. They transferred a goalkeeper in as well. So, and Alvaro, Spanish international, joins, from, I don't see from where. My bad. But he was part of this, he was part of the Olympic silver medal winning team. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want credentials, there it is. Let's move on to the next game, Leeds versus Everton.
Again, Leeds. Most of the players are probably gone. If Phillips is back, maybe taking a risk on their center backs, Koch or Struik, 5% or 4% owned respectively. But yeah, no one really kind of stands out for me for Leeds.
Yeah, and for Everton, like, there was a couple players I could have shouted, maybe like Demar Gray or Iwobi, but I wanted to give a shout out to Coleman, 30% owned. Even though they conceded the goal, I think he ended up getting around 7.5 ghost points or something like that. So, I mean, there was that hype around the possibility of them signing Dumfries as well, and another awesome fullback to add to their ranks. But yeah, I mean, Coleman might be that dependable James Milner sort of guy that it just never seems to age and just seems to put up good points. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep an eye on Coleman. Next game, Man City versus Norwich.
With taking regards to Pep Roulette, Benji Mendy, 44% owned. Dino, 10% owned. They are going up against Norwich too. So, it's an easy chance for a clean sheet. Fernandinho is a midfielder this time around.
Yeah. And I mean, even as a midfielder, he ended up getting 10 points or something, right? In that last game.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He's still a beast. I feel like he's just going to get key passes by giving it to Grealish. Grealish is just going to run through everybody and pop a shot, Interesting thing on Benj Mendy though, Ross. I feel like a lot of people are shitting on him for that last game, that performance. And again, you obviously don't go solely on just Fantrack's output, right? You want to do that eye test, etc. But I thought Benj Mendy was okay. I've seen him do worse. That's the thing, right?
Yeah. He's definitely not where he was before his injury.
Yeah.
And he will definitely be a second or third option, right?
Yeah.
He went off for Zinchenko, I think, right?
Yeah.
So but when he starts, and if he starts against Norwich, that's a pretty high, what'd you say, 60% clean sheet chance?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm hoping for an attacking return, if anything, right? For Norwich, Lees Milou, I haven't studied this guy too much, but from what I heard on a different podcast, I believe he was a consistent starter for his old team. So maybe if you want to go based off of that and just assume that he's going to get consistent minutes, 10% owned, he put up 10.5 ghost points, I think, against Liverpool. But I want to shout out Kieran Dowell. I know he didn't start this game, but if he does nail on a spot, this guy got 4 points, 2 key passes in 3 minutes, only 9% owned, right? And again, if you go back to our preseason content, he had a run of games towards the end of Norwich's season where I think he amassed 6 or 7 attacking returns. Just keep an eye on this kid, man. Let's move on to the next game, Brighton versus Watford.
Again, this is if he starts sort of as well, but Jakob Mörder, he did have, I think, the assist against Burnley, right? But based off kind of what we talked about on the expected open play, the expected threat, Jakob Mörder came off the bench and was one of the highest expected threat players in the past. I think he was, Mohamed Salah was first, Soufal, Emil Smith-Rowe, Chalobah, Declan Rice, and then Jakob Mörder with only playing 10, 20 minutes or something?
Yeah.
So, one to kind of look out for in the sense that might be more involved in the attack, especially if he starts, right?
Yeah.
He's only 3% owned.
Yeah. And he was the guy that I was worried about cutting into Pascal Gross's minutes this season. That's why I wasn't as high, I think, on Gross in the drafts, etc. So yeah, like you said, one to watch and see. From Watford, Emmanuel Dennis, right? Only 5% owned. This guy put up 30.5 points in his first game. If he's able to keep that spot, he could be a gem that ticks along with Sarr, right? Those guys kind of seem to be combining well together up front. And Cucho Hernandez, 3% owned. His first touch was a fucking screamer, bro. Proper finish, right? Yeah, there's definitely a talent in there. Definitely a talent. One to keep an eye on. Next game, Southampton versus Manchester United.
Adam Armstrong. Not Stuart Armstrong.
Yeah.
41% owned. Had an incredible season with Blackburn?
Yeah, Blackburn Rovers. Yeah.
Right. Was also part of their championship. Was also part of that PFA championship, kind of team of the season.
Yep.
Only 41% owned. His finish was really good.
Yeah.
Against
Everton.
Who was it? Everton, yeah, there we go. So, one to kind of look out for.
Yeah, and I'm still shocked by this, but Rafael Varane is still only 5% owned. Where are all the Manchester United fans and Fantrax, yo? I thought this guy would have been 100% immediately.
I know. He probably just ticking up. Right? I'm sure. Yep, he's still 5% owned, but I'm sure by tomorrow he'll be 95% owned.
Yeah, so. Exactly. All right. Next game, Wolves versus Spurs.
If you're looking for a goalie, Jose Sa, I hope I pronounce his name right.
I think that's right.
13% owned. Again, one to try out for. 6 points. Had 6 points. Had 4 saves against Leicester. So
yeah, and I feel like Wolves will concede chances as well. Lage doesn't strike me as like a defensive first sort of coach, right? And he was quite upset that they didn't manage to score, which they should have. Again, I still think
They
Leicester
should've.
was really lucky, bro.
100%.
So for Spurs, Steven Bergwijn, 26% owned. If Harry Kane's gonna go to Man City, I feel like the front three for Spurs is gonna be Bergwijn, Mora, and Heung-min Son. And watching that Man City game, I feel like any three of those guys can get an attacking return on like their days. So I know Bergwijn is like a forward in the game though. So I mean, maybe he's a less a shittier option than Mora, let's put it that way. But I still think that, we saw glimpses of what he can bring to the table when Mourinho brought him into the league. And you know what, with a better coach in Nuno, who actually treats human beings properly, he might get some, proper returns from Bergwijn. And in terms of their defense, I think like Spurs' defense could possibly be one to aim for clean sheets. And again, I think you can manage to stream all of the defenders. I think they tried to sound Pau Torres, right, from Villarreal, but he told them to like fuck off because they were like shite or something.
Yeah, he goes there. Not a big club.
Maybe they're in the market for another centre back, so it could be a watch and see sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. Next game, Arsenal versus Chelsea.
Albert Lokonga, 20% owned. Again, it is an Arsenal player, but he had a pretty decent game, like Fantrax was. I think he had like 10, 11 points.
Yeah. Is it the Sambi kid? Sambi.
Yeah, Sambi. Sambi. Yeah. Albert Sambi Lokonga, I think is his full name.
That's a really cool name.
So, yeah.
I think that's a good shout, right? While Thomas Partey is out, I think he will kind of keep his spot there. I'm going to suggest Kovacic, 17% owned. He got around 15 points. I know he got an assist, but Kova is kind of good at ghost points, man. He'll dribble like a few people and he will rack up some key passes just because of how many chances Chelsea creates on average. And I feel like players will just, take pops from outside the box, etc. So keep an eye on it though, because if Kante is fit, there's a chance that Kova could drop to the bench. So now let's move to the last game, West Ham versus Leicester.
Again, one of those teams where all these players are gone and the only options are left are the defensive options. And like no one really stands up at this point in the sense that like they conceded 2 goals against Newcastle. So like who do you really kind of trust? It seems like Moyes, I feel like once Europa especially starts, you'll kind of see who their starting defensive line is and who their starting kind of team is. But most of the players are gone that you would want, and it's just a matter of like the defenders. And even last season, unless their defenders got goals or clean sheets, they weren't really putting up regular points apart from your fullbacks. I'm talking about like your center back duo. So unless there's an injury, maybe there would be kind of players that stand out because of that.
I mean, Dawson has like a goal on him every now and then, but can you really predict that though, right?
But he also has an own goal on him every now and then too, so.
Ryan knows that. But yeah, the last suggestion from Leicester, Luke Thomas, 13% owned. I think while they kind of ease Castagne back into the side, Luke could be a proper asset, right? And again, if they kind of want to focus on that Europa run, Luke might get more minutes in the Prem. So go pick him up, 15.5 points. Again, I think lucky to get that clean sheet, so kind of take those points with a grain of salt. And that is our FA/waiver pick suggestions, and that's the end of the pod. Russ,
one thing you did notice, we didn't do any predictions of like the score lines.
Yeah,
look, keep an eye out on our Twitter. We are hoping like we would just kind of like tweet those for the sense of making it a more efficient episode. So
I mean, we hope that you kind of enjoyed how we did things this time around. We're trying to make things a bit quicker because our lives are getting busier, so we might not have as much time to edit, all that sort of jazz. But yeah, as always, happy to be back podding with you, baby. I've missed you all preseason, missed you all Euros. So it's gonna be good to see how this season unfolds. Do you have any sort of last final words for managers for game week 2?
Just have fun.
Yeah. Just have fun, man. Exactly. Have patience as well, right? Have patience with your assets. Don't be throwing out mad fab money just willy-nilly, yo. My biggest piece of advice, and it worked for Neeraj and helped him win his championship, try to hold some fab until the end of the season because it will matter. Trust me.
Sanji, didn't you just spend 151 on Lukaku?
Oh yeah, why did we start the pod with that, bro? Okay, before
how did we miss this?
How did we not talk about this? So before we wrap things off, yeah, let me give the story to this. So I saw in one of my money leagues, Danny Ings got purchased or got sold by one manager for 50 fab, right? So everyone starts with 100 fab. So this manager for sure was leading the pack with 150 fab. So I was like, you know what? Let me stir the fucking pot hours before waiver is being processed. And I messaged the group, yo, anybody want to forward for fab? I got like multiple DMs, So I managed to sell Dele Alli for 52 fab. I accepted the trade at 9.59, then immediately put a bid of 151 on Lukaku at like, I want to say 9.59 and 58 seconds. Because like the waivers are a little funky. They're not exact 10 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Bro, I was just sweating after that. I was like, oh God, please don't bid more. Please don't bid more. But yo, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. I got Lukaku, yo. I'm so happy with it.
You wish you only have one fab dollar left.
Oh no, I accidentally spent that on Charlie Taylor. I forgot to mention that.
Okay. So you have zero fab dollars.
I have zero fab dollars, yeah.
So Sanji doesn't take his own advice,
but
we know that.
Yeah, that's actually the reason I never win, But the other thing I was thinking was, because now I have that extra forward, would you not want to sell that forward and maybe get some fab? Or are you okay with trying to figure out who's the best 3 options out of those 4?
I like having 4 forwards. I think it gives you an option of like who to play, and like it is a bit of a headache, but it will make you a bit of a better manager. Yes, but 100% in your scenario, I feel like you still have good enough forwards that you can sell one of your current ones. I think you have like Ivan Toney and
I have Ivan Toney, Ismail Assar, Raul Jimenez, and now Romelu Lukaku. I think
you can sell like Ismail Assar for like about 50-60 more as well, considering how like his potential of how much points he can put up, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a good situation to be in. And you know what? Even if the bid didn't go through, like you said, I still had amazing forwards to kind of fall back on, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And the reason I was happy to trade out Delhi was because I have Lucas Moura as well. So I was covered in that sense. I just want to divest my assets. And like we were shouting Lucas to have a good season, he put up, 15.5 ghost points or something like that? Something insane?
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
He looked their best player.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get Lucas Moura in your league, go get that, man. All right. Ross, I think we've rambled long enough. I think we can sign things off. And we will catch you listeners on the next episode. Oh wait, do we need to do the socials plug? Do we usually do that?
No, we did it at the start.
Yeah.
If they're not listening, so
okay. All right, let's get the fuck out of here. All right, Ross, see you on the next episode, bro. Peace.